Hi, and welcome to Bath's Teams Conversations. This will involve me and a couple of ambassadors discussing various topics around university, such as what is university, looking at applying and choosing a university, as well as talking about what life is like at the University of Bath. This video's topic is about choosing a university. So you've applied through UCAS, you've picked your subject, you've hopefully got some offers back from universities as well, and then you have the big choice of deciding which university to put as your firm choice and which to put as your insurance choice. In this video we'll be talking about how we decided which university to go to, what kind of influences we had, any must-haves we had from university, and what to consider when looking at choosing a university. We hope you enjoy this video. I'm Callie Rice and I am the Student Recruitment Assistant here at the University of Bath. I myself was also a student at Bath for 4 years and I studied biology as my undergraduate. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a second year student studying education with psychology here at Bath.
Hi, I'm Mackyla and I study social sciences here at Bath. I'm in my third year and currently on my placement year.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a second year physics student on the 4-year integrated masters with astrophysics.
So were there any sort of university must-haves when you were applying to university, something that a university had to have, and if they didn't have it, they were basically off your list?
The biggest thing for me, I know that it's different for everyone, but I kind of did take league tables into consideration quite a lot. So like the university for me had to be at least in the top 50. And I think that's because like none of my family had been to university before, so if I was going to go, I wanted to go to a good university. However, the subject I wanted to study, which is social sciences, there was only 4 universities that offered that degree, so I had a very limited choice anyway. Bath was ranked like second in the UK for social policy and like second in the UK for psychology, so that did like sway my decision quite a lot. But obviously the main thing for me was when I visited universities. So when I visited Bath, like it might have just been because it was on a really nice sunny day, but like the university is surrounded by greenery. It's a campus university and it's quite small and compact, so it felt like a really nice community vibe, and it was also almost like a village in that sense, and it felt just like homely straight away to me, because I had visited city universities and it just didn't have the same feel. It was quite like big. You kind of felt like, well, I felt like kind of irrelevant in the big city environment. So for me, it was the campus and like the league tables.
Yeah, whenever my dad came over to visit, he would always describe the campus as like a university village, like a student village, and it was just just students in this one little hub. So I guess that is quite an accurate way of describing it at Bath.
Yeah, for me, I didn't have any must-haves, but similar to Mackyla, there weren't that many places that did my course, so I was kind of narrowed down by that. And I had, so you get 5 choices, and I had 4 places where I was like, yeah, I want to go there, I'd consider that. And I was looking for a 5th, and for me, Bath was actually that 5th. I'd never thought about it before, but I went for an open day anyway, because I thought if I'm applying, I may as well have seen it, and I just loved it. I really, really loved it, and it was quite quickly in my top 2. So I was choosing between Bath and another university for ages. Like I really dragged it out trying to decide, and I decided just before the deadline, just based on that kind of gut feeling. Like I visited the campus and I could just really see myself there. I really liked the feel of it. So yeah, I chose it and I'm really glad that I did.
I think for me, I again was quite similar to Mackyla. I looked at the league tables. I was achieving good grades and therefore very much anxious to try and get ahead wherever possible, trying to get into whichever unis were the best. So I was looking through all the top 20 unis of physics. I went to tons of them, and I originally had this long list of all the universities I was interested in. I tried to go see as many as possible because when you go to them, you get a proper feel for what it's like. You can talk to people there, talk to your lecturers, the head of your department, and it really does open your eyes as to what it's going to be like to study there. I think I went to so many unis, way more than I applied for, all over the country. I just wanted to go see all these places. It ended up being a gut feel that made me choose Bath over other universities because it felt very much like the right place where I fitted in best. Some unis, I didn't like the fact that they were in a city, and that wasn't the right feel for me. I didn't grow up in the centre of a major city. Instead, it was more of I like to keep it a bit quieter. I didn't want to go somewhere where the physics felt like it was very narrow, and they didn't embrace all the different topics in physics. Instead, they very much wanted you to go there to study a very specific region. For me, was quite a big change, and I only found that out by talking to the departments. I spoke to the lecturers, I spoke to the director of studies, and they very much pushed that specific region, and so that was a negative for me. But also green spaces, like friendly faces, they all end up really swaying your decision. You go to them, you speak to the people who take you rounds, you see the accommodation, and sometimes it just clicks. And that's why I recommend that you try and visit as many as possible. Even though league tables are good for some things, they can't really tell you what your gut can tell you at the end of the day.
Definitely. I think open days are really important just to get a feel for the university, because when you do go on open days, you go to a lot of talks, you get thrown just so much information. But I never really remembered much from open days other than just the feel of the university. So even though I got told all about like, the amazing research they were doing, or that you'd study this and that and the other, and this is how you'd be assessed and all that, that wouldn't really be what I would remember from the day. It would literally just be the university. And after so I didn't actually visit many of the universities on open days. I visited them after applying on my applicant visit days, because I didn't have much time to go visit universities before applying. But then after I got my offers back from universities, they sent out an email saying, hey, come visit us again on an applicant visit day or an offer holder day. So those are for people who've got an offer from the university, but before you've made your sort of like firm and insurance choice. So it's basically the time for you to start thinking about, okay, which of maybe the 5 choices that you've got, which one is going to be that firm choice. So a lot of universities nowadays are inviting students back. And that's actually the day that I made my decision on Bath. So I went to all my applicant visit days, got to see the actual department, so that was quite nice and quite a change from open days, because open days were quite general, you'd see a little bit of everything, but on the applicant visit day it was very much biology focused. I got to see the biology department, speak to some of the lecturers, speak to biology students specifically. And after I went to all of those, I was just sort of like driving back with my mum to home, and she was just talking about different universities, and she was just saying, so which one's your favorite? And it's sort of like, I think it's Bath, but I'm not sure why. It just feels right. And that's what I'm always telling students, is like that I don't really have a great answer other than it just felt right to me. But that seems to be what you guys are all sort of agreeing with as well.
Yeah, and also obviously some people can't visit universities, but if you go on their websites, usually they have like visual tours, so you can check those out as well. Another thing is going back to entry requirements, I think that Anthony mentioned, most highly ranked universities will have slightly higher entry requirements, but like don't let that put you off. I definitely didn't have the predicted grades to get into Bath, but I feel like you shouldn't let that put you off. And if you feel like you can get those grades and that you're going to put the hard work and time in, like do apply. Just because I feel like anyone should have the opportunity to go to like a highly ranked university. Doesn't really matter like what predicted grades you've got, unless they are really, really bad. Like if you know that you've got the ability to like really push yourself, then definitely don't let that put you off. And you can also put like a highly ranked university or high tariff university as your first choice. And then the second choice can be something that's slightly lower entry requirements. So you've always got something to fall back on if you don't hit those grades. So I think it's just really important to not let that put you off.
And another thing on that, when it comes to putting high-ranked kind of prestigious universities as your first choice, there's a lot of them. They're not actually considered specifically to be the famous uni in the world, because there's so many countries and so many unis. Employers don't look at that quite so specifically, and so you shouldn't take the university just because it has higher entry requirements or a slightly more household known name, because at the end of the day it might be too far from home and it might not feel right. It might be that the campus wasn't for you, the department wasn't for you, whatever reason it is. Put the one that truly feels right, and therefore go to them and find out, or speak to them on the phone. I think a lot of unis do calling campaigns where they'll want you to ask questions. Take that time to speak to the students who are there and be like, are you part of societies? What's the nightlife like in that area? What's your course like? Are the lecturers actually engaging? Because sometimes it might all be taught on a blackboard, or it might be that the university doesn't really specialize in that course and it's quite small there, and you might feel like it's quite quiet for you. There are loads of reasons why you would or wouldn't enjoy it at specific unis, and you'll end up very much personally tailoring those to you, because some people don't mind if it's a campus or a city. Some people don't mind if it's far from home, or other people really want it to be close to home. There's loads of ways, or far from home. It can be whatever. You end up coming to your own decisions and your own reasonings, and there's loads of resources out there for you to help you make that decision. But it's a very personal choice at the end of the day.
Yeah. Instead of just looking at like league tables, entry requirements, things like that, it is important to look at other things. So for me, I needed like specific facilities. So I needed like the disability service. So it is good to check out like the facilities that they offer before applying. So say if you have like a niche hobby or anything, just check if they've got like that sport at that university, or like the society. Also check out like the students' union. So every university should have a students' union, and they run things like volunteering. They run things like the part-time jobs on campus. I know that BAF does that. They have like wellbeing services. So it's not all just about like the academic side. It is about other stuff as well that university can offer you.
Yeah, I've had quite a few students sort of come up to me and say, oh, do you have this team? Do you have that team? Do you have a hockey team? Do you have rugby? And for them, it seems like almost more important than the academic side of things. Like they have to have the specific sport, or they have to have this society or something. So some students do really have that kind of must-have, which is perfectly fine. If that's really important to you, to make sure you check that out before you come to university. But something else that was mentioned was like distance from home, and I actually found that more influential than I realized it would be. So Bath for me was only about an hour and a half away from home. And there was a couple of other universities I looked at similar distance, but then there was also one that was about 5 hours away on the train, and I knew once I arrived there, even before I looked around, that it was just too far. After the journey, I decided that was just too far for me. Some people like to go to their local universities. Some people want to get as far away from home as possible. So it is sort of thinking about, there is so much to consider when choosing a university. So things that we said, like distance from home, league tables, so the academic side of things, but also maybe specific sports or societies, facilities that we have at university. So yeah, there's actually so many things to think about when choosing a university.
Also the National Student Survey. Sorry.
Student satisfaction.
If you do want like honest opinions of how students found the university, like there is the NSS that you can look at. Just from that, like you can tell that students do actually enjoy going to Bath. So
you could also just talk to the students on the open days and all that, and yeah, you'll also find out a lot about the kind of people that go there when you go to them.
I think the gut feeling thing is the big thing for me. I think visit them if you can, and you'll kind of know where you feel like you fit in.
Something we haven't yet mentioned actually is also the city of Bath itself. So I've spoken to a couple of other people that really liked Bath because of the city as well. And I think that's actually a really important thing, because when people go to open days, they do just go to the university. And especially if it's a campus university, you usually don't get to see any of the city. And actually that's where I've spent a lot of my time at university. So after first year, most people will move out of their student accommodation, and you do end up living like in the city centre or close to it. So actually I spent two years of my university time in the city centre kind of. So I spent more time than I realized, and that's something really important to consider, because if you actually don't like the city at all, then you're not going to enjoy the city living afterwards. Do you guys have anything to say about the city?
Yeah, I really love the city, and it's not something I massively factored in when I was choosing, but actually I feel so lucky to be at university in Bath, because I really love it, and it's really accessible from campus as well, because I was slightly concerned about being far out, but it's like a 10-15 minute bus ride, and the city's small enough that it feels manageable. You know your way around fairly quickly, but also it has everything you could need. Like it has shops, like loads of shops and restaurants and stuff like that. There's never been anything where I've been like, oh, I wish the city had that. Like I feel like it doesn't have enough, but because it does. So I think it's actually a really good size for a student city. It's one of my favourite things about the university.
Yeah, I also love this city. It's completely different from where I'm from. So I'm from like a really big industrial city, and then when I came to Bath, it's like really quaint and nice. It's a World Heritage City, and the only other one in the world is Venice, so like it is very, very picturesque. One thing that stood out to me is that it's also really safe, so also different from where I'm from. Bath, like I've never felt unsafe in Bath. I think it's like the second safest university city in the UK. and like you can literally just walk around at night and like never feel unsafe. That's my personal experience anyway.
So today we talked about choosing which university to go to. We talked about the different things that have influenced our decisions, things like being a campus or a city university, distance from home, league tables, actually the city itself as well. So there's a lot of different things to take into account when you're looking at universities, and actually going and visiting them can be one of the most important things, because a lot of us feel that gut feeling of you get when you just visit a university can actually say a lot about the university. And if you don't go and visit them, you won't necessarily know whether you get that gut feeling or not. So definitely recommend going and visiting if you can. Obviously, not everybody's able to, but there's loads of resources online these days, loads of ways to communicate with students or watch clips online, find out lots of information. So do make sure you research a university before you decide which to put as your firm and insurance choice. Thanks again for listening to our Team Spark conversations on choosing which university to go to, and we'll see you again.